Hi, welcome to 8th grade ELA at Summit Hill Junior High. Specifically, in this video, we're going to be talking about what happens in my ELA class specifically. And 8th grade is very different than 7th grade in that accountability is increased. We want to increase students' awareness of the controls they have within their day to maximize their productivity as well as their progress. So let's go ahead and get started. Through this video, you're going to get insight to the students' daily rituals and their schedules, and expectations and procedures specific within our classroom, along with a curriculum overview and then specifics for our classroom, and also how I will be serving your student this year. So before we get started, a little bit about me. My name is Beck, and I have been teaching for 3 decades. And as I said in my classroom presentation, some of my oldest students are already 45, which is a little crazy. And as a professional, my focus has been teacher leadership, whether that was for my own progress or supporting teachers in their professional journey, and specifically my areas of expertise within the classroom and implementation of what I deliver to students is reading and writing instruction. I'm really deep into the psychology of motivation. In fact, my master's was in the area of motivation, and so I've created a deep love for the psychology of learning, the neurobiology of learning, how the brain actually works, the chemistry in acquiring new information and interacting in our environment. And that also includes neurolinguistic programming, which has a lot to do with word choice and how we frame situations, which ultimately can lead to the whole idea of positive psychology, which is Mindset by Carol Dweck. Great book, by the way. And my ultimate goal within the context of our classroom is to develop student leadership, but not externally, but internally, so that they can redefine their locus of control every day. And by that, they're able to harness more power over their learning as opposed to it just being delivered. They're really maximizing what is being shared with them in each and every classroom. So let's get started with daily rituals and schedules, because our year is really very short if you think about it. And to take a look at this, 25% of your child's time will be spent in my classroom this year. 25% of their time in 8th grade, because we have 2 class periods together. This is the equivalent of 14,080 minutes. That sounds like a great deal, but if you break that down into hours, it's approximately 234 hours. Now, if we turn that into a work week, that's not very long. So we have got a great deal of work to do in what otherwise might seem like a long period of time. It's really not when we break it down. So I am all about efficiency and productivity in a way that's going to serve the students best, and that begins with procedures and rituals. What you see in front of you now are the general expectations and rituals of every 8th grader. So in the morning, they drop off their computer, they pick up their computer, and at the end of the day, they drop it off. So it's something that is just an integral part of their day. And then at lunchtime, they have a full class period that's split in half. Half of it is lunch, half of it is intramurals. During that intramural time, they can actually go to study hall. They might participate in lunch detentions, which is the result of academic behaviors where they might need support if they're not getting their work done, if they feel a little overwhelmed, and they're losing track of the what's in their day, what they have to get done. This can help them harness their attention and get back on track. And then there's library time that's available. They may attend as long as they have a pass before library time, before that time. So they just need the okay from a teacher before that time to attend library during intramurals. And then their passing periods are 3 minutes. We work hard to create a strategic plan for them as far as their locker visits and what they're taking with them and when. And that varies from student to student depending when they might have lunch and when they might have gym. So when they have PE, they can't bring their computers, so they must go back to their locker. So we work with them on how to be most effective. We encourage them to use passing periods other than traveling to class for locker runs, using the restroom, and possibly going to the water fountain so that doesn't have to happen during class. So specifically, in our classroom, we have procedures and expectations. The rituals that we engage in create predictability. With predictability comes a sense of comfort because you know what to expect. We know that as adults, the very same way, when we know what to expect, the anxiety is decreased. So my goal is to do everything with a clarity of purpose. Now, I think this is true for life in general, and it's really one of the concepts that I follow in my personal life as well as here at school, but I also share it with the students, always clarifying why we're doing what we're doing. Sometimes the whys are more important than the whats. You know, students are willing to play the silly game if they know the reason why, if there's going to be a benefit. So those are always shared with the students, and this happens with our rituals. As soon as they come in, I'm very transparent. I tell them what I intend to get done, and oftentimes we don't get that far, but we try. So we go over to what I call our wall secretary, where we have our agenda for the day. We've got a weekly breakdown, and then an extension that goes in 3 weeks. So the clarity of expectations are always given before an activity. And we review the agenda in order to increase their focus so they know what's coming, and it helps them develop this academic independence because now staying focused becomes easier because the next step has been revealed. So I always want to share those visions of what I intend on getting done so we can work in partnership together. When it comes to specific activities or units or projects, I always share learning objectives. These could also be called I can statements, but rather than calling them I can statements, which frame it as an optional, I prefer I will statements or learning objectives, which is what we use in the academic community, so I choose to use that same verbiage with my students. And it creates a shared destination. It's kind of like a GPS. This is what you want to be able to do by Friday, and everything we do along the way supports that ultimate goal for Friday, giving a clarity of purpose. And during that time, I also connect it with what they've done in the past and what they're going to do in the future. So now it really solidifies that sense of purpose, the reason why. In addition, one of my rituals is looking for student feedback. Yes, I always look for performance feedback. That happens very naturally within the rhythm of the day and instruction. Always looking for feedback on students' understanding. However, I also ask students for feedback of how a lesson went, how they learned best, what didn't serve them well, and allowing them to contribute in small decision-making within the day from getting feedback even on their schedules and their anxiety level or their level of empowerment. All of this not only helps me, but it helps the students to raise their awareness in their own environment. So their feedback is invaluable to me. And then it creates a great dichotomy of shared control within our learning environment. Here's what I truly believe. Challenge and success are dear friends. In order to be successful, we have to be willing to take risks and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So as we journey through the year, giving them the opportunity to make mistakes and reflect on those mistakes and look forward to changed behaviors that will get them their desired outcome is what leads to success. But we have to be faced with challenges and stretching and growing, just like when you build muscles, right? So throughout our day, I always stress progress. It's not about perfection. Perfection is elusive. We will never be able to be perfect. However, progress is important, and what we work towards in our classroom is gaining the satisfaction of progress. Growth requires courage and trust in a safe environment. My job is to create that trusting environment where they feel empowered. Because in an environment built on mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual appreciation, everyone flourishes being part of the whole. And that is my own personal objective with every single student. Because if they can feel safe, then they can thrive. You know, we can survive alone, but we thrive together. And building meaningful relationships is how that happens. So, as far as our curriculum goes, in ELA, there are basically 3 areas of study: reading, writing, and word study. I suppose what I should have added here was speaking and listening, but those are really an integral part of both reading and writing. It's not really a standalone. I don't believe they're mutually exclusive, although they can be evaluated exclusively, but they are an integral part of actually all of these. So just to keep that in mind. That's the general area of focus. In our classroom specifically, we read literature to learn. We learn about culture. We learn about our own standards, our own morals, our own beliefs, by reflecting on topics, issues, and themes within resources like short stories, novels, historical speeches, nonfiction articles, and other media, including videos. So, when we interact with the text, I try to unveil to them that it's really a 3-dimensional experience, and it's a learned skill. By 3-dimensional, not only is it the words on the page and the ability to think, but it's also the emotions. I want a visceral response when we engage in dialogue about something that we've read. Because if we're digging deep enough, that really does come very naturally, but students need to be guided to that level of response and interaction. And we do that through active reading and annotating. Now, annotating is a very important component of the while reading strategy for active reading. And not only do we use short stories, but these are the novels that we will be reading. I will clarify, though, that last one, Farewell to Manzanar, if we have time, we will touch on that. Depending which class you're in, you might get to that and the other class might not. It just depends where we are along the road of the curriculum. Esperanza Rising, Night, The Pearl, and Farewell to Manzanar. They all have a cultural component. They all have a thematic similarity. Everything ends up getting connected and interconnected. And it gets very exciting when we have these shared experiences. The next thing we focus on is writing. And I do believe that we grow our thought process through intentional, purposeful writing. And this is done through formal and informal writing, paragraph writing, summary writing, literary analysis, and essay writing. Now, some people think that writing is a gift. I disagree. Well, for most, right? Some people really do have a gift. But becoming a great writer happens through exploration, reflection, and risk-taking. And again, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And it's about self-observation. And it's about creating connections. So students need to be given the opportunity for these experiences. And that's what we do in our classroom. So in order to accomplish all of our goals with writing, we focus on writing for a variety of purposes with time flexibility. These are Common Core state standards, and variety of purposes includes both formal and informal writing. And time flexibility, meaning the ability to write under time pressure or within a time frame, producing a specific type of written response, or even extended time frames. And sometimes I establish those time frames, sometimes the students establish them, sometimes we establish them together. We do this using Power Writing, writing tools, Funnel It, and Lenefit. They're strategies that include skills in order to develop, for instance, with Power Writing, structure, clarity of purpose, stronger focus, greater depth of ideas, and we really focus on cohesion and making sure everything fits together. This works for paragraph writing, short answer responses, and even essays. Then we have writing tools. Writing tools are where grammar is infused into their writing, and we look at sentence structure and word choice and coherence. And together, power writing and writing tools become very powerful, because with this, students actually raise the level of maturity of their writing and really gain a sense of empowerment and direction, because power writing is formulaic, as is writing tools. And once they develop their craft, they can begin exploring with it and bringing their creativity of structure, ideas, and presentation to these strategies. Funnel It and Lenefit are for introductions and conclusions. And these have been designed in order to really increase focus and purpose and create a dialogue with the reader before they even get into the meat of their message and what they'll be presenting. So students who've had difficulty writing introductions and conclusions will find great comfort in these strategies, because it really focuses on how to present an introduction to bring the reader in, develop a great thesis statement, and then in the end create a conclusion that allows for a refocus on the thesis statement, generalizing or summarizing what was presented, and then leaving the reader with a really good let-go statement. So all of those are really, really powerful. In addition, we also do word study, traditionally called vocabulary, and I do believe that this expands their self-expression. By expanding how they can say something, they can really make an impact on the delivery of what they're saying. And creativity is expressed oftentimes through word choice, and it may seem like a minute element of the writing component, but it carries a heavy weight for self-expression. We explore words through vocabulary, spelling, etymologies, derivations, and then application of those new words that we learn. So together with all of these skills, it looks like a great deal, but all of this happens within a 2-week time period. Every unit for vocabulary is 2 weeks. Within these 2 weeks, we use the workbook as a foundation. They develop flashcards. We have what's called quadrant charts, where we explore parts of speech, and then word trees, where the real word study comes in, and they take a look at derivations and etymologies and associations, and it's kind of an exciting visual approach to word connections. And then paragraphs of understanding are powerful in that they generate short pieces of writing that reflect synonyms, antonyms, and context clues of a given word, so they can really understand the word at a deeper level, not just memorizing the word. And then, of course, our spelling tests are dictation tests, where the students dictate sentences, and along the way, they're asked to observe writing tools and how we use grammar, and perhaps different parts of speech, or how a sentence is structured. So all of this comes together, and they're woven together. That's why it's really hard to separate, but word study is very important. And our curriculum specifics, we've got social and emotional learning standards, Common Core standards, and then the technology standards. And the technology, as you know, is an integral part of their day as well, because in fact they're interacting online with social studies, with math, with English and language, and also with science. So all of this comes together, and you can go ahead and look these up for details if you so choose. Social and emotional learning standards are all about self-regulation and awareness, and where the students fit into the process of interacting in their groups, with their teachers, in their environment, with their learning, and helping them manage their emotions within that context. And so this connects to my love of brain study. So it's kind of nice because the social and emotional learning standards allow for teaching to become very personal. And then the Common Core standards, of course, focus on college and career readiness. And of course, it drives instruction and planning, and it clarifies the roadmap for me as a professional, making sure that I'm delivering what's necessary to the students. And the computer standards, specifically referred to as interactive technology and smart education, is all about increasing digital awareness and knowing how to use technology as a tool while being safe, and learning how to apply it to gather information that's relevant. So now you've seen a little bit of what your child will be experiencing within the context of our 8th grade English and Language Arts class. But the question is, how will I be serving your child specifically? Well, I am the facilitator of their learning experiences. It's my job to be able to create an environment where risk-taking is encouraged, and I give them the experiences for that risk-taking, and to know that with every challenge comes an opportunity of growth, and also the reality that we won't always meet those challenges. However, if we're willing to continue learning, then failure is never an option. Because whether it's social, emotional, or academic, when we're faced with a challenge and we learn how to reflect on how we got to the outcome that we experienced, and we learn how to modify our actions in order to change the results, there is no failure, there is only progress. And that is the ultimate process I want to take your child throughout this year. And with those challenges is going to require some support. So I will give them support throughout the year, meeting them where they are every step of the way to help them increase their confidence while pushing them to meet a higher standard. So that is my ultimate objective with each and every child. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and I'm looking forward to a great year. And the real joy comes at the end of the year when students can reflect back and recognize their growth as well. And that is my ultimate gift. Thanks again for listening. I hope to communicate with you soon.